Welcome back in another video. In this video, we are going deep. We're gonna talk about the fear of being seen. This is something that a lot of people can relate to, and this is something that affects a lot of people, that people struggle with. And it's one of those fear, one of those patterns, to be more precise and more accurate, that affects us in so many ways, in so many behaviors, and that really prevents us from being authentic, from being confident, from being our best self, but even more so from creating the life that we want, because it is all tied up with worthiness, with your self-image and your self-esteem. And you know, if you've been watching this channel for a while, that everything in your life revolves around your self-image, your identity. Your identity creates your reality. So if on some level you harbor unhealthy, weak, unworthy self-image, you can just start to imagine just how many ways this affects you in your life, in your finance, in your relationship, in your personal sense of well-being and happiness, you name it. So what we're gonna be doing in this video is that we're gonna talk about what is this fear, how does it manifest, what happens in our life, why did it start, and exactly what you can do to start the process of overcoming, transcending this fear, this pattern, so you can become your true, authentic self and create the life that you want. All right, so let's go straight into this video, guys. Now, if you are new on this channel or if you're coming back, thank you for watching this video. As always, just take a moment to like and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of this type of videos. And I want to start this content by looking a little bit at how this fear of being seen actually manifests in our life, in what behavior, in what form and shape, so that you can have an overall look and maybe even reflect in your own life and seeing if you are struggling with one of the following things. Personally, I remember, okay, from my personal experience and working with a lot of people, I can tell the patterns and how those always come up. The fear of being seen often comes up as a fear of social anxiety. You know, it's afraid of being embarrassed, being judged, being criticized, making a mistake. So there's also the fear of public speaking, but also more deeply, the struggling to express yourself truthfully, honestly. You know, it's avoiding confrontation, for example, or being a people pleaser, struggling to say no, struggling to show your emotions, struggling to have any form of vulnerability, or avoiding anything that makes you appear weak, right? And instead you become guarded, you become defensive, passive aggressive. So this is how it affects the communication, the expression, the relationship a lot. But there's also the way it comes up in form of like avoiding to make mistakes, for example, right? And this can come up in perfectionism. So you want to make sure that everything's going to work out, everything's going to be perfect, and everything's going to be, you know, on a high level, just to make sure that you minimize failure, just to make sure that you avoid embarrassment, that you avoid criticism, that you avoid things not going a certain way because of how it would make you feel. And that's why a lot of people end up overthinking and planning and making excuses and never starting, simply to avoid this. And more importantly is that they're trying to avoid being seen in a bad way. So ultimately this leads to, again, this fear of showing vulnerability, showing weakness. And if you see that, usually it's overcompensated by the need to just show positive aspect, strength, that everything is all right, achievement or success, or to make sure that you are seen in a society way as being good, as being strong, as having your shit together, having that shiny armor, so that nobody can see inside the crack and all that shame or, you know, unworthiness or negative thought or struggle that is happening. Okay, so on the surface you look like you got everything figured out, but inward and in your life, really, when you reflect on truly what you want, you're far off the mark. So this is just to give you a glimpse, an idea, because this obviously manifests in different ways for different people, yeah, and from different intensity. But I wanted to give you a list just so you see just how deep that pattern can go and can affect us in so many of our behaviors and results. Because you can see that if you're struggling with any of those things, it's clear that it's affecting your life, your relationship, your finance, your work, your ideas. It leads you to play small, going safely through life, as what Jim Rohn would call the timid approach to life, avoiding taking risk, avoiding being seen, playing small, being on the background, simply because you're too afraid to put yourself out there, because all of it resolves with worthiness. So there's a deep feeling of unworthiness, that you're trying to compensate for it, that you're trying to overcome through achievements or whatever the strategy you're using. But the challenge is that there's a lot of negative emotion, limiting belief, often shame, guilt, sadness, anger, that are repressed and that have been there a long time. So where does this come from? It often comes from childhood. Okay, it doesn't have to be, but often in my personal experience, it starts in childhood. And it starts from past experiences, whether it's traumatic or whether it's little events that come here and there and that leaves that mark on our nervous system and our subconscious mind. And what we start to do is that we take those negative emotions and we internalize them and we create a pattern. So to avoid experiencing those again. And this can show up, for example, in a very simple way. You're at school and you're talking too loud and the teacher just tell you to shut up and sit and you freeze, right? It shocks you and people are laughing or looking at you and you just, so that could be just one example. I personally remember when I was playing football, I was very young and I was in a locker room and I made some form of joke, and the joke didn't come across very well. And people just started laughing, mocking, and pointing. And you see how a kid can quickly make something out of nothing. So you see, it's not like a big, crazy event, but it's enough to make a mark on the subconscious mind. Because when we're young, we don't know how to process those emotions. We suppress them, we repress them, and we make decisions. We create belief, we internalize them. So you have a failure, you have a mistake. It's easy to internalize this as being I am a loser, I am a failure. And this can happen in terms of comment about your look, how you look like, and makes you self-conscious. And then, one of my core beliefs when I was growing up, because I'm very tall, I'm 1.96 m, by the way, was that I'm too tall simply because of all the comments and the way people are looking at me. I internalized this as being too much in a negative way. So that only compounded me wanting to not being seen, not being the center of attention, not wanting to, show how tall I was, because I didn't want to get all those looks and comments. So you see how we then create patterns of avoidance, strategy to cope, and different form of strategy to not refill those emotions. But again, this often goes against what we really want in life, because it holds us back from truly being our most expressed, authentic, and to go and create the life that we want. And I'm going to give you another example of how this personally affected me and my coaching business. I remember a few years ago, when I was like going in, putting marketing out, I was struggling. I was struggling with the part of putting myself out, putting content, being authentic, sharing my views, trying to help others, and especially posting videos, especially on Facebook back then. It was just like I was making videos, right, on my phone, and then I was looking at them. I didn't like my voice, I didn't like the topic, I didn't like the intro, I didn't like this and that. So I was making so many excuses. I was preparing in the background until I get so good, and then I'll post my videos. And so you can imagine how many months went by without me posting any single videos and just procrastinating, making that same mistake and same excuse and just waiting for the right time, whatever. And how many people are going through the same pattern in life, just waiting for the right time, or to be perfect, or to be good enough, or to know enough, or to learn enough, to have enough certificate, to read all the fucking books, whatever, right? To have the website ready and to have this ready, and before they actually do what they need to do, but that they're scared of because of how they could come across or what people would say about them. And they don't want to feel that fear, that shame, that embarrassment, right? So that's what it really comes down to. So overcoming this and pressing that send post button was one step to overcome this. But this is just an example of how it can actually prevent people from starting their business, starting their page, starting sharing their content, sharing what they like with the world, what they're good at, simply because of that fear and that pattern. So what I want to talk about now is how. If you're resonating with this video and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this and I can see how this is playing out in my life, how do I go about it? How do I overcome this? What are the steps? So I'm going to give you a couple of steps because there's a process to it. I'm sorry to break it out to you, but it's not a click your finger, snap out of it, and everything's going to be fine. It's often so deeply rooted in who you are and your identity because of all the decades of experience that you have at it. and all the unconsciousness and beliefs and experience and emotions that you repressed. So for a lot of people, it takes time. It's a process, but it's a process that when you start to let go, it changes a lot of things. So the first thing I invite you to do is to reflect, is to build awareness. Watch this video again. Notice some of the patterns I talked about. Notice if do you have any of those patterns in your life. You have to be very honest. Where are you hiding? Where are you playing small? Where are you procrastinating? Where are you being too much of a perfectionist? Where do you feel shame around yourself, around your body, around your situation? Where are you not happy? Where have you been procrastinating, avoiding confrontation? Where are you being too much of a people pleaser? So reflect and be honest with yourself. Yes, I'm doing all those things. I'm noticing. Because without awareness, the reason is always going to be external, and you're never going to be able to break out of this. Because as long as you're being a victim and you blame people, things, or situation for how you feel, it's game over. The second thing that I invite you to do is this. Take a piece of paper and write down what did it cost you, this pattern and all the underlying behaviors. What is the cost of everything you missed out in your life up to now? Write it down, everything it costed you in your relationship, in time, in money, in experiences, in whatever is meaningful, and really feel everything that it costed you. You want to link pain to this behavior, and you want to link pleasure to changing, because when you reach a point where you had enough, when you're done with it, this is when progress and transformation happens the fastest. When you really, really want it, when you have enough pain with being this way, this is when you're going to shift out of that pattern the fastest. So then when you answer this question, ask yourself, what will it cost you in the future if you keep on being this way? 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, what are you going to miss out in terms of relationship, in terms of happiness and fulfillment and love and joy and business and whatever it might be? Write it down and really feel it. Next, write down what changing and allowing yourself to be your most authentic self, or however you want to call or phrase this, what would that do for you? How would that benefit you 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now? What would you gain? What would be the benefits of changing? Because you want to link pleasure to that new identity. Next step is this. This is where you have to start to do a lot of subconscious work, because you have a lot of negative emotion, a lot of limiting decisions, a lot of thoughts and beliefs and patterns that are all there compressed, repressed, that are being unconsciously playing in the background, that you're gonna need to unroot and let go. Past experiences that you still hold on to, a lot of things, a lot of baggage that you're gonna need to let go, that you're gonna need to forgive, that you're gonna need to just learn and turn the past into wisdom, so that you no longer replicate the past into the future. So one way you can start doing this is, and I'm sharing a lot of things in different videos, so I don't want to spend an hour just on this topic because it's very big, but start monitoring how you feel. What triggers you? What brings shame? What brings anxiety? How is that fear manifesting emotion in your life? Yeah? What are you struggling to express? What are you struggling to avoid being seen? Okay, how does it feel? Where do you feel it in your body? What are the thoughts? The negative thought, the negative story that goes in your mind? How do you beat yourself up? How do you talk to yourself? How do you, what are the mental conversations that you have about yourself in your own mind? This will give you clues about all the underlying beliefs and emotions that you're gonna need to start pulling out. So as you start changing that mental dialogue and letting go of the past, it will have a big effect on your future. This is something that it's faster and easier and so much more rewarding when you work with someone. So if you need coaching or if you need help, there's a link down below where you can book a coaching session, one-on-one coaching session, and we can accelerate your result, accelerate your self-awareness, and get you on the other side of the bridge so much faster. So if you're interested, if this is something you want, just check the link down below, okay? The next thing you can consider doing is this. Build a new identity. Who do you need to be? Who do you want to be instead? How do you want to show up? How do you want to talk? What kind of result? What kind of life? What kind of person do you want to be instead? So if that pattern has been ruling your life in so many different ways, who do you want to be instead? I made a video in this channel about the 1 year from now identity. Who do you want to be? What kind of life you want to have? What kind of relationship and finance? So it's important to let go of the past, but also to define who you're going to be in the future, because clarity is power. And you're going to need to have clarity of who I need to be instead, who am I becoming in order to become that person. Yeah. And finally, the last thing is to embody that person, is to see yourself as being worthy, feel yourself as being worthy, and know that your worthiness is non-negotiable. And start taking small steps in the alignment of that new person. Start showing up differently. Start saying no when you mean it. Start expressing yourself differently. Start posting that video that you've been procrastinating on. Start, doing something that breaks the pattern. Those are a few of the steps you can take to overcome this fear of being seen. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot to process, because it is something that is so deeply rooted in people's identity and self-image, and it affects your worthiness. And as long as those feelings, emotions, and beliefs are there, they will show up in your life. So I hope this video brought a lot of awareness, and that it helped you put the pieces together, and that it shows you pretty much a roadmap of how you can go from where you are to where you want to be, and become your best authentic self, and start creating the life that you truly want. Let me know what you think down in the comments, guys. If this video was helpful, remember to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Be well.